friends and family, immediate family and distant relatives, co-workers, childhood friends, dog, Sadie Bear, welcome. First thing I want to say today is that this is not just a time to grieve and mourn. I've been strictly instructed by Travis and Kirk and those closest to Ryan that this is to be, first and foremost, a celebration of a life well lived. With that in mind, we recognize that we should not be here. We should not be here for this reason, mourning this life taken from us much too quickly. This family, so rich and wonderful, should not be dealt such a crippling blow. It is our hope, the hope of everyone involved in this ceremony in one way or another, that this time, Kirk and Travis, family, Abby, closest friends, would be a time of healing and renewal and hope. My name is Eric, and I'm a pastor here in Kansas City. I pastor two churches. Revolution and Westport is one of those. And Ryan came to Revolution a couple of times. I had the privilege of meeting him. I wasn't as close to him as most of you, but he did visit my church a couple of times. I'm not sure exactly if he came following Jesus or if it was a certain young lady he was following to my church. This was long before his beloved Abby. But Ryan wasn't much for organized religion. We all know this. He didn't have much patience for the religious establishment. I'm not sure if he would describe himself as a Christian or if you'd find him in a pew most Sunday mornings. And I think this is what Jesus loved most about Ryan. Because everything that I've heard and learned and read about this young man indicates to me that he was more like Jesus than I will ever be. We celebrate today a life lived by someone who lived fully and completely and simply for others, laying himself on the line time and time again in the most creative and sacrificial ways so that others can have better, fuller, more enriched lives. That's who Ryan was, and that's who he continues to be for us. And so this isn't a religious occasion, but a celebration of life. This is why we're here. You're going to be, I think, really touched and blessed by what you're going to see today. A number of different people are involved. I'll just ask those who are involved to pay attention to the schedule on your programs and just come forward when it's your turn to keep things moving in that way. And I've also been instructed to not necessarily put a time limit on each one, but I'm going to be that guy. I'm the music at the Oscars that gets you off stage. So that's not my doing. That's Kirk and Travis's request. So you can talk to them. I would like to get us started with a reading that speaks to my heart when an untimely death occurs. It is a chapter from a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Then Almitra spoke, saying, "We would ask now of death." And he said, "You would know the secret of death. But how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For the life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. For what is to die but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance.
Hi, I'm Abby DiMolanta. Met a lot of you guys, and at some point I would really like to share memories both from you guys and back. I don't think I'm able to do that today. All I can do is just try to offer each other comfort as best we can. But one thing I do want to say is that Ryan was a man that men strive to be. And here I have a reading of something that he wrote in December 31st, 2009, about his views on how he saw the universe, life, and death. This is how I understand things. I've got a spirit, a consciousness, a soul, what have you. There is energy inside of me that cannot be created or destroyed, that will carry on through all time and space. All of what we consider to be physical matter at its root level is energy moving in and out of form, vibrating and shaking about. All of this is connected in a way that is non-local or perceivable on this physical plane of existence. We are all intertwined. We all share it on a level of collective consciousness that is measurable. All of those times that we experience quantum entanglement, where you think about someone and they call you out of the blue, or you know that a loved one has died, and the unexplainable correlations are all part of this. My view of what God is can also be exchanged for what I believe heaven to be, or the universe as a whole. This energy that flows through everything is what I understand God to be. The closest to understanding things as I see them, that one's soul and God are essentially the same thing. My view of death is a return on a spiritual level to this collective place. Think of it as a point of singularity, all time and space and consciousness converging in one spot. I'm you and you're me.
My name's Christian, and I intentionally didn't prepare what I had to say because I wanted to speak from the heart. But they say that most good stories start with the fact that law enforcement was present. And this is a story I haven't really shared with many people. Almost anyone at all. I got a phone call about 3 years ago at, I think, about 3:30 in the morning from an unknown number, and I ignored it. I mean, it woke me up, but I wasn't about to pick up. And then the same exact number called my wife's cell phone. And so she looked at me and demanded that I pick it up, and so I did. And it was Jackson County Correctional Facility asking me if I could take a collect call from a Ryan Beye. And so I accepted, and without really any explanation, he asked that I swing down to the Jackson County Courthouse and bail him out of jail, and he would explain everything later. So on a really cold morning, I pulled on some clothes and raced out of the door and went down to the jail downtown. And I waited for probably 45 minutes in the cold for them to release him after I paid his bail. And he came out and explained to me that he had been, I think he forgot to use a blinker or something. And a rookie officer had pulled him over, and he didn't have his insurance and possibly his driver's license. And so the officer wanted to search his whole vehicle and run all of his information. So he ran the information and came back that Ryan had a warrant out for his arrest, which is probably shocking to all of us because he's not that type of guy. But when you find out what it was for, it makes sense. He had a warrant out for his arrest because he had been ticketed months before for having a sofa on his front porch. And the officer thought that it was a worthy cause to go ahead and arrest him for the sofa. So the story ends with Ryan telling me, "Please don't tell my parents." And he's not here to stop me. On a much more serious note, Ryan was my first business partner. See, if I don't talk about this, I can talk just fine. But he was my first friend here. All right, he was my first friend here when I moved to Kansas City. The first day that I moved here, my wife had to go to work, and she said, "Well, I guess you can go hang out with Ryan Beye," who I didn't know at all. And he accepted me in, and there's more stories related to that day even, about selling other people's trash, actually. But that can be for maybe later today. But if there's one thing that everybody knew about Ryan, and I know that everyone here, and that's why you're here, is that Ryan loved people. And he didn't just tell people. In fact, it was really difficult for him to tell people. I'd tell him pretty regularly, "Hey man, I want you to know that I love you." And he would say, "Well, yeah, I feel the same way." So I just hope that this day, as sudden and shocking as it is, can be an encouragement to us all, to not just tell people that we love them, but to live like we love them. And I just want to continue on that way to honor him. Thank you.
I barely passed public speaking. I think it's because my professor felt bad for me. So and the fact that we're here is sort of ridiculous to me. But Ryan Beye is the best friend that I ever had. We met almost 10 years ago. January 30th, 2003 was our 10-year friendsversary, before which we had been aware of one another's presence, but we'd never had a proper conversation before. But upon formally introducing ourselves outside of Westport Coffee House one night, when Ryan was selling buttons at a show, which he was usually doing at that point in time. We hit it off pretty instantly. We talked about his mom. She'd been in the same boat I had been. We're smart kids, but high school dropouts. But anyways, we decided to hang out later that week, which we did. And that first time that we hung out, Ryan took me to his traffic court date. And during that traffic court date, we showed up, we lurked in the back, we snickered a little bit when the judge mispronounced his name, Ryan Beye. And then we made sure his lawyer showed up and asked for a continuance. I don't know why all this has to do with law enforcement and Ryan Beye. He really never got in trouble, even though that's what we bring up now. But so we made sure the lawyer showed up, and then we ducked out of there without ever having to speak to anyone there, which I think is what Ryan preferred anyways. Then we got some sandwiches and press buttons and watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which is what we ended up doing a lot that summer. And then actually that summer was the first, Ryan acquired his first screen printing press for t-shirts. And at the time it was housed in Christian's garage. It was a detached garage. And it had the press and the rest of the setup. And then Ryan started to work all the time. He didn't do anything but for a while. And I'd come help him out from time to time when I wasn't in classes or working. And one night that summer, after we first met, we had both worked through the night. He was in the garage working on the printing press, and I was pressing buttons inside the living room. And we did that all night. He had hundreds of shirts to press. I had hundreds, about 1,000 buttons to press. And then about 5 a.m., I went outside to take a break and go pick on Ryan, see what he was up to. And so we sat down to hang out for a second, and I told him my stomach didn't feel so good. And he's like, well, maybe you need a fart. And I told him that even if I had to, I couldn't really do that right then. And his response is, why not? And I said something pretty stupid, probably like, I don't know, because. And so he just grins. A couple seconds later, he lifts his butt up and farts at me. And I was sort of incredulous, but I laughed. And then 2 seconds later, I had it in me, so I farted back at him. And then we laughed uproariously. We high-fived and decided that we were best friends. And 9.5 years later, we're still best friends. And it's just something that we decided, like, I don't know, it's not really the most likely of pairs, but didn't really bother us any. We were still friends anyways. And incidences like the ones I described, they were indicative of our friendship, filled with an easygoing comfort, a complete lack of censorship, and good taste, really, if you think about it. Randomness and tons of laughter. We laughed all the time. Some of the best moments of my life include laughing so hard with Ryan that my stomach hurt, my face hurt, and I was crying and nearly peeing myself. And we would laugh that hard on a fairly regular basis. He would make me laugh that hard. And having been such close friends for so long, Ryan played a large part in shaping who I am today. And I hope that I may continue to grow and learn from his example. He was himself through and through, and he stuck to his guns when he believed something. He was completely honest, but in a kind and gentle way. And he was generous in such a genuine way that I've never seen anything like it. And he wanted so little for himself, but he loved to give people things, and he loved to do things for people, and he loved to treat people to things, and from his family to his employees to his friends, he was always giving, always doing something for someone, and he loved it, like it's part of who he was. And as of late, our favorite topics of conversation were about science and physics and the universe and spirituality and philosophy. All that deep stuff, but we also loved playing video games and watching movies and talking about books. And we loved to watch cartoons when we were younger, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, C-Lab 2021, Harvey Birdman, and that type of old school stuff. And then more recently, we watched all the old school X-Men's, and we started watching new stuff like Archer, which we both thought was hilarious. And we would, from time to time, discuss strategies and scenarios involving the zombie apocalypse, which I think if you hung out with Ryan long enough, you would discuss with him at some point. And we would talk about ways to make the world a better place, both for people and the environment. That was something that he would always have ideas about, from collecting coffee refuse from different coffee shops and making biofuel from it, to different ways for economically and politically to make the world a better place. And he was always there for me, no matter what. And he always would listen when I needed him to. He would always show up when I was hurt or if I needed him for anything. And he was this solid thing in my life. And he was oftentimes my rescuer. And he never judged, but he always cared. Ryan was the best person I know, and it is so inspiring to see the legacy of love and friendship that he created with people. I am comforted somewhat in knowing that he knew exactly what he meant to me and how much I loved him and respected him. And there was never a question in my mind that he felt the same way. We were best friends and we meant it. And thank you everyone who enriched Ryan's life with love. He was filled with love and so eager to share it and receive it. I think he would want us to do the same. Ryan believed that there was more existence after we're done here, that our energy becomes part of something universal. His very presence in our lives has altered our paths and created something by interaction with us. His energy is all around. The beauty and wonderfulness that was in his soul and mind is all around us. The memories are part of us. His energy has shaped who we are. I'm in the deepest of mourning for the greatest of friends, but I will try to remember this and be thankful for the times that I had to know and to have his presence so close to me in my life for 10 years. I'm so lucky. To have a best friend like Ryan, I'm so lucky. I'm so thankful.
There's 3 of us, so we'll try and squeeze it into the time. We were in a band with Ryan for a long time. I'm very close to him. And everybody's been just kind of sharing stories, and we thought the best way to honor his memory would be just to share some stories. And I don't really want to tell this story, but Travis made me promise to. It's really gross. In fact, all of our stories are probably fairly gross.
Yes.
About various bodily functions and ingesting strange things. One day in Wilmar, Minnesota, we'd been on tour, or what we called a tour, which was driving 12 hours to play one show and then driving straight back to Kansas City. We would often pray. We'd stand in a circle with the other bands that were there to play with us or open, and we'd stand in a circle and pray, because we often played in churches. And before this particular show, we were all, probably 8 of us, standing around in a circle. I had my eyes closed and my head down, and someone else was talking, and I felt this wetness hit me very forcefully right on my bottom lip. And my just knee-jerk reaction was to lick it off of, like, what was that? I raised my head up and opened my eyes, and there, straight across the prayer circle from me, with a look of absolute horror on his face, is Ryan Beye, just staring back at me. And my gaze drifts downward to his other hand, which he's got on his arm here, and he's got pinched a bit of skin on his bicep. And in the middle, there's a bloody red dot. And that's when I realized Ryan Beye has just popped a bicep zit across a prayer circle into my mouth, and I've licked it off. I was inconsolable. And I proceeded to chase him around the venue with his own shoe in my hand, intending to beat him with it. I eventually caught him and gave him one really good slap on the back. And for about 3 days, he had just a perfect footprint on his back. And I don't feel bad about that at all. That's what you get when you pop a biceps hit across a prayer circle into somebody's mouth.
I'm Joe, for those of you guys who don't know me. There are 1,000 good stories, and the hardest part about finding a good story is trying to think about how you can tie it in. I'm gonna attempt to do that, and I may not do it as well, but it's a good story. We had a van, and it wasn't a great van. In fact, it was a terrible van. The muffler was hanging with a clothes hanger that I fashioned. It hung on for thousands of miles. The tires would explode, and we were missing a windshield wiper. And the squirter was facing the wrong direction. So when you go to clean, one would go up and the other would go out. That's important to the story. We were lost in Arkansas on one of our tours, which was to drive a really long way, play a show. We were playing with a band called Nothing Left to Lose. They were out in Springfield. So we're down in Arkansas and we're lost at this gas station. Brian Rowe was the drummer for the band, and he was pretty flustered trying to figure out how to get us back. So he's reading this map inside of his van. Well, Ryan Beye gets the idea, and he creeps the van back. Brian Rowe, he's just watching his map, and Ryan angles the van in and starts to move it in like a cat.
Ever so silent.
Yeah, just creeping it in, and the whole time we're all inside the van just watching. And he gets closer and closer and closer, and hits the windshield wiper fluid in a perfect arch of liquid. Shot from the van, went through the window, and just all over the map. We locked the doors and then backed up and retreated. But even at a time where everybody was upset, he was looking for a way to make us smile. And even though Roe wasn't smiling at the time, he appreciated it later on. And also, thinking back on it now, maybe he wasn't trying to get us home quickly. Being out on the road and getting to share these great adventures, that's what he loved to do. And yeah.
I'm Ethan, and I wrote mine out. It might be the only way I get through it. First, I just want to say that I feel extremely lucky to be able to share with you guys, and so lucky that I got to spend so much time in a band and to be friends with Ryan Beye. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about crying because I've been doing it, and I've also been thinking a lot about vomiting. I've come to the conclusion that crying and throwing up are very similar in nature. Before you do either of them, you know it's coming. You can feel it welling up. You can sense the mounting urgency, sometimes long in advance. Both activities are terrible. You dread them and you work to avoid either act. You brace yourself. You find a safe place, hopefully to get over it with the least amount of embarrassment, the least amount of mess, the fewest number of people seeing you, or potentially getting any of the expectorant on them. The experience begins and you hope to detach and that it will pass. Sometimes it hurts and you can't even breathe while it's happening, but it's cathartic. And once it's over, you always feel so much better and you regret that you fought it so hard in the first place. Ryan Beye taught me one of life's most valuable lessons about vomiting. He told me whenever you know you're gonna throw up, eat a banana right away. The fruit will coat your throat going down, and it's really soft coming up, so it won't hurt so bad.
It works.
It was great advice, but now we're kind of left to figure out how to make crying not hurt so bad, and I don't know if bananas are gonna cut it. So yes, we had the great privilege of playing in the Underdog Conspiracy with Ryan Beye for nearly 10 years. Endless stories. Joe said it well when he said the tricky part was finding one to tell, so I'm going to tell two quick ones. I'm greedy like that. Once again in Arkansas, this time Conway, Arkansas. We were playing a show. The room was a big rectangle. On one side was the stage, and on the other side was a bunch of arcade games. Ryan, this should come as no surprise to any of you, spent the bulk of the evening playing Galaga or Space Invaders. But later on, we were playing the show. Ryan noticed a dude in the back playing video games. And in between songs, he tried a couple of times to get the guy's attention. Hey man, what's up? You playing Galaga? I love that game. Did you see my high score? That kind of thing. When the show was over and we were packing up, the owner of the venue informed us that the dude in the back was in fact his wife, and we would not be getting paid or invited to play there ever again. Thank you. The next quick story is less of an example of Ryan's ability to put his big gross feet with those long freaky toes in his mouth, and more a testament to his inspiring ability to set ambitious goals, persevere, and overcome. We had booked another California tour. It was, the first show was in Sacramento with a string of 7 shows down the coast, and then a very long drive back to Missouri. It was a lot of driving, but that was never a deterrent for Ryan. It was winter when we started this 37-hour drive from Kansas City to Sacramento. We made it through the Rocky Mountains without any real incident. The roads were clear enough. Unfortunately, the next day, a snowstorm began to move in as we were entering the Sierra Nevada mountains. We had all kind of forgotten about the existence of that mountain range. It seemed secondary to the monumentalness of the Rocky Mountains. But the weather was getting very bad, and it was really bad when we were approaching the Donner Summit. For those of you unfamiliar, the Donner Party left Independence on the Oregon Trail, and they got stuck in the snow and had to eat each other. So we were at that place. And the road was closed to all automobiles without snow chains. We did not have snow chains for our tires. Snow chains were available to purchase, but were really expensive for us. So Ryan, being who he was, asked around to a few locals and got directions to take a back way around the Donner Pass. Ryan took us with our 1985 Dodge Ram van loaded down with gear over the mountain on back roads that were not cleared, had very few, if any, safety rails, while it was still snowing, all the way up and back down. Both the slow, harrowing drive up the mountain and the white-knuckled, terrifying descent down the other side are, in my mind, the most dangerous, horrific, and dumbest thing I have ever taken part in. But I also view that trek and the decision to take literally the road less traveled as a testament to the character and unstoppable determination of Ryan Beye. Ryan is an inspiration in that regard. Our band was really not that good. We've been listening to it and watching videos. But we got to play 1,000 shows all over the country because he willed it to happen. He decided it could be done, and then he took the initiative to do it. In the couple stories I've chosen to share, I hope I am not downplaying how sweet, thoughtful, and giving Ryan was. He was all those things, and we all have 1,000 stories to prove how big and wonderful his heart was. I was asked to share band-specific stories about Ryan. If I were to share the stories of how he was there for me as a friend in times of need, I would no doubt be a complete sobbing mess. We all have those stories. I will cherish mine, as I'm sure you will cherish yours. And I just have a quote from Helen Keller. What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. Thanks.
I wanted to perform a song. I'd written many songs with Ryan over the years and sang many of his songs, and I wanted to perform a song live. And as I was going through our back catalog of songs that he had written, trying to find an appropriate one, I started relearning them because I hadn't played them in years. And I realized even just learning the songs or reading the songs and the words that he had written that there would be no way that I could get through a song performing it. And so we decided to record the song with the help of our friend and Ryan's friend Johnny. We put together 3 parts of 3 different songs that he had written, tweaked the words just a little bit to reflect kind of how we feel about him, using his own words and his own melody that he had written. And so I guess we're gonna hear that song now, and we're gonna sit down and listen to it.
I'm Jennifer Scanlon, and I have not had the pleasure of meeting most of you, but some of you do know who I am. I prepared a letter that's mostly to his family, and it's kind of from me and all the members of my household, my family. I first met Ryan Beye when I started working at the filling station, a coffee shop that he both printed for and frequented as a customer. I was told right away of his relationship to the business, and about 2 weeks after I started working there, I approached Ryan about getting some shirts printed for a friend of mine for their birthday. I asked him how he felt about trading the shirts for massage, and he said he felt pretty good about it. I went to Bandwagon Merch to meet with him about what I wanted and how we would break down our trade. And when I arrived, I saw the guys busy as bees, printing and folding and packing boxes. I asked someone where I could find Ryan Beye, and they pointed me to a door on my left. When I walked through the door, I saw Ryan working at his computer, wearing a gold sequined turban-like hat. When he looked up at me, I said, "Nice hat," and he replied simply, "Thanks, dude." He did not remove the hat. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to know Ryan, and I knew that we would be friends. That was about 2.5 years ago, and since then, Ryan became a regular fixture in our home, about 2 to 3 times a week. My husband, Spike, as most people know him, our roommates, Mustafa, Libby, and Sadie, and myself became very close with him. And right now, I'm trying so hard not to be angry, and I'm trying not to think of only how unfair this is. And I want to focus on how lucky all of us are to have known Ryan. He was very driven, and he was a genuine person, truly genuine. He was all of these things and so much more to everybody who had the pleasure of knowing him, and I'll cherish every moment I got to spend with him, and I'm going to miss him every day.
I tried to prepare for what I wanted to say today, and I just struggled so much with it. I went through so many memories in my mind of my brother from growing up and just throughout our lives, and like everyone says, there are thousands of them. And I'm so very thankful for them. And I have loved hearing everyone's remembrances of him. That has been the only thing in the time since I learned of his passing that has helped me to not feel the pain so acutely. And I have half a mind to just order some pizzas and throw the whole rest of the program out and just have people come up and share whatever they want to share about him, because I want to hear everyone's memories. But I know that there'll be time for that later. Whenever people would ask me about my family, I would always, tell them that I had a younger brother, and I invariably said, who is way cooler than I am. He plays in punk bands, and he runs his own business, and all these things that I just felt like I could never do. Even though we were brothers, and I feel like Ryan knew me better than probably anybody else in the world. And I feel like I knew him better in some ways than anyone else. I felt like he was just cut from a different cloth. He did things that I couldn't dream of doing, and he did them in ways that I would never dream of doing them. And some of my best memories, just from growing up and from my life, are just spending time with him and all of his friends, coming home and finding a full basement of people after a show, hanging out, and just sharing stories and laughing. I had the opportunity to, spend a year in Kansas City a couple of years back, and spend some more time with him and go over to the Monster Mansion and spend some time there with Ryan's friends. And I'm amazed at the depth of the community that he built here. I'm not amazed, actually, knowing who he was, but it's a beautiful thing to see, and I so appreciate everyone being here today and all the roles that you played in Ryan's life. I tried to think of some of my favorite memories of Ryan. One that I just think represents his ability to be so entrepreneurial, and one that completely flabbergasted me was I came home from college one day, and I was talking with him, and he was like, oh, I have an appointment. And I was like, oh, okay. And then shortly after that, the doorbell rang, and this young, good-looking girl also from his high school class was at the door, and I let her in, and he ushered her into my mom's room where she had a massage table set up where she did Reiki. And I found out later, he told me that people were paying, the girls in his class were paying him to give them massages. That he had somehow, he was just good at back rubs, and he had somehow managed to roll that into a side business. I was pretty amazed at that. That's just who he was. He was always finding a way to not only make money, but he did it in such creative ways. He learned how to make wallets out of duct tape, and he sold those to his class, like intricate wallets with pockets and inset pictures and everything, and would sell those to his classmates. He was always doing something, and we all know that turned into just a lucrative career, and something that he just, turned into a great success. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. One of my other favorite memories of Ryan is giving a toast at my wedding. He was my best man, and I can say honestly and without hesitation that he's the best man I've ever known. He didn't have to give a toast. He asked me if he could give a toast. And everyone, I know everyone here that knew Ryan knew that he had a stutter, and I just, I was like, well, you don't have to, and but he insisted, and he stood up, and I wish I had a transcript of the toast here to tell you. I don't. We have it on video. It's at my house, and we haven't been there since we heard the news, of course. But he stood up. He never stuttered once, and he gave the most touching toast I've ever heard in my life. And I will treasure that always, and it impacted me so much. Ryan became an uncle 8 months ago, and he got to meet his niece a couple of times. And I just want to say that Aria loved him from the moment she saw him. She was all smiles, grabbing at his beard. And I'm always going to remember those moments. It's absolutely important to me that Aria knows who Ryan is, and I just ask for your help in making sure that she does, that you continue to share these stories. I want to hear as many of them as I can. I'm going to share one other memory, and this one was pretty recent. I went to trivia with Ryan around Thanksgiving when I was in town, and this was the first time I'd been to a trivia night with him, which was amazing to see. He's definitely in his element at trivia. We talked about it many times later, and he was so good at trivia that he would know what the final question was going to be, and know the answer, of course, to the final question before he ever even got to trivia most of the time. And Abby told me that he told her that one of his greatest joys in life was walking up with the answer to the question, the final question, before Matt had finished asking it and dropping it in front of him. But at this particular trivia night, Ryan was there with a few of his employees and friends, and I know those are interchangeable. And I was sitting next to one of his employees, and we'd all been talking and everything, but there was a point where we were all having different conversations. Ryan was at one end of the table, I was here, his employee was here, and I was having a conversation with somebody else. He was talking to his friend. So this wasn't in any way solicited, and it wasn't for my benefit, it wasn't for Ryan's benefit, but I heard him say to his friend in the midst of his conversation, and I work for the greatest guy in the world, so there's that. They were talking about jobs that they'd been in, but that was probably one of my proudest moments as a brother, was to hear that and just know that that other people saw Ryan the way that we did in our family. When I heard the news that Ryan had passed away, it was the most shocking and traumatic event of my life. And I just kept saying to myself and saying out loud, I can't do it. I can't do it. And that meant a lot of things. But I didn't feel like I could handle that loss. I didn't feel like I could bear that. And I'm sure that many of you have felt the same way, or similarly. And what I want to say is that what I've learned in the days since are that I cannot do it by myself. And I don't know necessarily how I'll make it through it, but I know that we as a community who loved Ryan have to go through it together. And I know that he would want us to be together, to support each other like he would if he were here, and to carry on. Our hearts are broken from his loss, but they are fuller and better because of who he was in our lives.
All of our family are, the reason I ask about this, we've been wearing some sweatshirts that he gave us one Christmas. And you may even have seen some of the pictures of our family standing together, and we all have different colors. And I can remember Travis's comments about the green one that he got with the white piping, because he thought it made him look so cool. He was like, damn. In fact, that came about because I think Ryan was wearing one of these, and Travis had seen him, some months before, and was like, I want one. I want it to look as good and as cool as you do. Over the last few days, moving about the city and trying to carry on with my life, I've been amazed that life's just going on, that things are kind of, I pass people on the street, I see people turn, I fight for an entrance onto the entry ramp on the highway. And there are people oblivious to the change that has taken place in the world, and I can't understand that. Because on some plane that we can't quite feel or see, there's been a seismic shift. The New Madrid Fault has shifted, and rivers are running backwards, and Ryan Beye has moved to some plane where we can't reach out and touch him and see him. And it's just unfathomable. And in struggling to understand this, I've tried to come up with an awareness or a sense of, is there a word or a phrase? Because Ryan knew the power of words, and I know the power of words. I've seen words lift people up. I've seen words break people's hearts and their spirit. And so I was searching for something, and I found a word, and the word is regard. It can mean many things. It can mean to gaze steadily, to regard something. And not just kind of look at it like, oh, that's cool, but to look at it and to see it, to give heed, to take into account, to have relationship to have a connection with. It also means if I have regard for you, I have esteem, I have a kindly feeling, I have a respectful opinion about you. It's an expression of friendliness, and ultimately it is an expression of respect. And I know the respect I have for my son, that he has for me, and that he has for all of you. And I'm so grateful and so thankful for that. A week ago on Saturday, in the horror of all of those things that unfolded, an image came to my mind of my son Ryan, and it's the picture there in the middle. Ryan was 2 going on 3 when he looked like that. And I have countless memories that just flood over me of him talking to me and being with me. And Ryan, when he talked to you, especially at that age, he just didn't get close in an approximation. He was right in your face, and he would pull your face close to his, and he'd be right there. Those eyes would be so aglow, and he'd just be like, wow, Guess what? He knew more and understood more at that age than people who have lived their lives striving for success and striving for esteem and striving for whatever we strive for, and he already had it then. He was already in the flow, full of awareness, and dialed in. And the reason I can tell you this is I'm amongst friends, so I can share something about my story. And it's no different, I'm sure, from many of yours. It's not because I was any better or worse. It's not any more distressing or more harrowing than anyone else's. But it's because of the meaning of Ryan and our relationship that I feel you need to know this story. When I was 8 and 9 years old, I lived in a small town in northwest Colorado called Craig, Colorado. And when my family would go somewhere, I would invariably end up with a family who was, the mother of this family was my mother's best friend. The one thing that people didn't know is that her oldest son was also a sexual predator and a perpetrator, and I was abused by this young, disturbed person over a period of a couple of years till he went away to college. And so I was certainly broken and in distress and unbelievably affected. When I was younger, they called me Tiger Beye. Prior to this. Afterwards, I wet the bed, I hid out, I sent a clone of myself to school to participate in the things that other children did, and I just tried to pull it in and hold it together. I went through life obsessed with trying to find ways to feel okay about myself. And fortunately for me and for my family, the way that played out was work was my drug. Okay? If there was something to do that you could get into, get a hold of, and sweat your ass off, I was dead set to do it. Okay? And I'd work and work and work and outwork any man, and sometimes 2 or 3, until I was numb and exhausted, and I didn't have to feel any of that anymore. I'd go get some rest, and I'd come back and do it the next day, because I could feel okay. Look what I just did. And I defined myself in that context. And thankfully, that's the way it unfolded. Because I could have become another perpetrator. I could have become a drug addict, an alcoholic, a desperate soul. But I held it together that way long enough for this young man to come into my life. And when he was about 2 or 3 one Saturday morning, vividly I can remember this event, He came bouncing into the bedroom, and I was still in bed, kind of being lazy. He bounced up on the bed, he got real close to me, and he looked me right in the face, and he said, "I want a new daddy." What? I want a new daddy. Now, I could have gone any number of ways with that. But because of who he was and what he was and how he said it and the feeling that I connected with him, I realized he wasn't saying he wanted a different daddy. He was happy, he was glad that we were together and connected. He wanted me to get over being a victim and obsessed with all this other crap and get on to being a survivor and a thriver. And he wants the same thing for all of you, and that's how he lived his life out. He knew what it was to be new and to be renewed. He knew the power of love and joy and compassion. And there are many people who would measure their life against his and say, well, you know, he really wasn't that successful, and look at the way he lived. And have you ever been in the Monster Mansion? My God. But they believe you get ahead by being bigger and stronger and tougher and meaner and more, just get into that emotion and get into that hormone push and, just prove to somebody just how cool you are, because you're better than they are. You're greater than they are. They don't count. You're the one that's important. And Ryan found a different way to see it. He found a way to bring us all forward because he found a way to find love and joy and compassion. And he knew that ultimately that's what wins. That's what wins. So just as that same morning, 38, 39 years ago, depending on how he was, when he was standing there staring me face to face, I want a new daddy. He wants all of you to be new and full and renewed. And again, closing with the power of words. The prefix re, R-E, where regard comes from. It's the abbreviation we use when regarding things. It can be attached to almost any verb or its derivative. And it said, when you attach that to, like the verb energize, you're re-energized. It happens once more, it happens afresh. It is renewed. And because of this young man and the power of my family and the sustaining love of my wife, my son Travis, and our extended family, I became a new daddy. I moved on from being a victim. I became a survivor, and I became a thriver. And that's all he'd want for any of us. I'm honored that you're here. I'm honored that he is my son, and that he knew so much, even at 3 years old. And he bounded into my room that day, and he knew, Dad, if you'd just get your shit together, we would have so much fun. And we did.
Hi, I'm Chip. More so than anything, I know Ryan due to a couple of his employees, but more so he would consider them friends. I didn't work for him. I want to share this with you real quick because for those of you that have been around for the social networking revolution, you might remember Zynga. We found this little nugget on Zynga, and it's more so a letter to you. It's in poem form. I'm going to read that and then share a couple of things real quick. But I am still around as ever, a lumbering dinosaur. No, I have people in my life I hold very near and dear to me, and that makes me happy beyond repose. I am content, and I plan on keeping that with me every day we step forward into the future. It's not something that can lay stagnant and dormant for too long, because it turns into a routine, and contentment becomes being comfortable. And those are things that are far from being one and the same. Thank you. I'm forever grateful. Ryan Beye, January 28, 2006. He's just saying that he really just lives his life for other people, never content to see somebody struggle, always willing to be an inspiration. I have read several things. People were concerned about his move to Hyde Park originally, due to the fact that it was a neighborhood that wasn't, it had lost its luster. And he's inspired lots of people in my life to move there, to make a difference, to lay roots in places that people may not be willing to do otherwise. He's just really a big difference maker. And it's funny that Travis said what he said, because those are the kind of platitudes when people say best boss ever, or what a gracious person. But you literally heard it all the time from every single person that knew him far better than I. And those are the platitudes that are reserved for when people die. But you heard those before, all the time. So that's the amazing thing to me. I got a message this morning from an old girlfriend, and she lives in Texas now. In 2007, we were helping out with the Ron Paul campaign, and I guess Ryan, unbeknownst to me at the time, shared a lot of the same political ideologies or views on life. And my ex-girlfriend, like I said, she reached out to Ryan. She knew him through a close circle of friends and got him to make buttons and t-shirts and really get the revolution going around here. And that led to a nonprofit organization that led to us being profitable, to getting to live out some of our dreams, and I didn't even know it until today. So to kind of come full circle, the reason I'm up here, Kirk liked my voice, but other than that, I think I might have been one of the last people to see Ryan. We play trivia every Monday and Thursday night. That's pretty much the cornerstone of our relationship. We both share that passion, and I got in a little bit of a bike wreck and mangled my bike due to the ice, and Ryan called me and offered a ride. He didn't know, but he wanted to make sure I was there. And normally I didn't have to call Ryan. I figured he would always be there. But he picked me up that night, also took me home, and it just shows the grace that he has, the willingness to just be selfless, to just give of himself. It's really incredible. One little story. Like I said, we play trivia. Monday nights we play at the Bulldog. It's a place at 17th and Main. A couple of weeks ago, we were playing, and we enjoyed making money. And a lot of the time we did, whether it was for our beverages or if it would go in our wallets or not, wasn't really the big deal. But we also played for pride. That night, the Bulldog had a bunch of artwork up from local students, and we asked the bartender what it was all about, and they were collecting money because they didn't have supplies. I don't know what particular school it was. We ended up winning that night, as we did it pretty frequently. Sorry, the guild. We ended up giving all of the winnings to those children. And I hope that some sort of foundation or something comes of this to support Ryan's passions, especially for the arts, for kids, whatever it is. Real quick, on behalf of Matt Larson, that does trivia on Thursday nights at Buzzard Beach and Monday nights at the Bulldog, he did a tremendous thing this week, collected all of the buy-ins for the family. Also, we have a bonus pot that accumulates over time, and it's a pretty substantial amount of money. We took a vote that night to make sure that everybody that showed up at trivia, our rivals, our friends, and there wasn't one person that even jokingly said, do you want to play for pride, or do you want to play for money? Do you want to play for Ryan? And it was an overwhelming consensus. So all that money went to them upon more money. And I want to invite everybody this Monday night, 8 o'clock at the Bulldog. It's, again, like 17th and Main. Even if you don't like trivia, they have dollar mom tacos, as Abby and Ryan would call them. They're really, really good, and other libations. But come out and support one of Ryan's passions. We're going to raise some money for him and have a lot of fun. So thanks for letting me share.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie, Ryan's cousin, Kirk's and Travis's cousin. If you look at your programs, you'll see the word ho'oponopono. Kirk talked about the power of words. This is a Hawaiian word that's really kind of difficult to translate exactly, but it means something like this: an act of putting oneself and others in a state of true goodness, well-being, uprightness, and ease. It means taking action to reach your true nature, including the nature of being right within yourself and with the world and with people around you. Ho'oponopono is also the name of a simple mantra that's used to achieve a true state of healing and reconciliation. The mantra consists of repeating 5 simple lines, the power of words, even when they're simple, repeating these lines over and over, and it's something the Beye family has used to reinforce their oneness and their love within their family. The mantra consists of these 5 simple lines: thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, be well. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, be well. Although today we feel intensely the absence of Ryan's physical being, we still have Ryan present within our minds and our hearts. We have his image here and some beautiful photographs. He's very much with us. We still speak to the Ryan that is still with us. We can still hear his voice speaking to us in our memories, in our imaginings, and for some of us in our dream worlds. We rage that we did not get to say goodbye to Ryan. We were not allowed to tell him what we wanted and needed to say to him before he left us. But I'd like to invite you to call up the images of Ryan that are still in your heart and use the Ho'oponopono mantra to focus your thoughts on what you might like to say to him. As I say each line of the Ho'oponopono mantra now, I'll leave a brief moment of silence for you to allow yourself to tell Ryan, in your own mind, some of the details that you want to tell him. What do you want to thank him for? Why do you love him? Do you want to ask his forgiveness? Those closest to Ryan may want to fill the moment of silence after each line with some of those things. Those more distant may want to just repeat the line in your mind several times in oneness with the family and friends. Ryan, thank you. Ryan, I love you. Ryan, I'm sorry. Ryan, please forgive me. Ryan, be well. In the same way that we think of the many things we did not have a chance to tell Ryan before he left, Ryan most certainly had many things that he would have wanted to tell us. I'd like to invite you to hear the Ryan that is still very much alive in your own consciousness and in your own memories of him, and provide a space for him to speak some of those things to you. He also did not get a chance to say goodbye. As I repeat each line of the mantra again, I'll leave a moment of silence for you to allow the voice of Ryan that resides in your mind, in your imaginings, and in your memories to say goodbye to you in this special way. Again, if you feel that the lines of the mantra are enough, please just allow each line to repeat in your mind several times. For those closest to Ryan, if you would like, envision him addressing you by name and allow the Ryan that resonates so uniquely in you to tell you in his own voice the things he would like to tell you. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Be well. I think that Ryan would especially have wanted his family and his closest friends to continue hearing his voice in their minds saying that last line, the line that was added originally to the mantra by his mother, Dawn. Let us listen to both of their voices as we imagine their gentle intoning. Again, if it is appropriate, please add your name to this line as you hear their voices echoing in your mind and in your heart. Be well. Be well. In the spirit of further meditation and continued healing, Kirk has asked that we share in a brief repetition of the Ho'oponopono mantra in several other languages. This will allow us to hear and feel the cadences of deep healing and love at a level of broader expansiveness, and help us create a feeling of unity with the larger whole, the larger singularity, as Ryan put it. So please join me in this prayer of healing and comfort. Spanish. Gracias. Te amo. Lo siento. Por favor, perdóname. Que estés bien. Hawaiian. Mahalo, aloha no aula oe. E kala mai ia u. Olu noi ko kala. Maika I mauloa. Scottish Gaelic. Tapad letr. Ta gaul agamort. Gab moles geul. Ta midjulich. Feich nas fer. Welsh. Diolch in fawr. Rwy'n di gardi. Mae'n drig gen I. Os gweli den da, medewich I mi. Bidwich in da. Cherokee. Wado. Tsige yui. Gwige yui. Gaest ost yu wad anavta. Udohi yui hoatsu. Osta. Swahili. Asante. Nina kupenda. Samahani. Tafadahali. Samahani nipishe. Uguapole. American Sign Language. May we be whole. May we be at peace with that great singularity that is within all of us.
On behalf of the family and closest friends, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and to thank everyone who shared during this time. I don't really know how you've done it, but you've done it well, with courage. And you've given witness to Ryan's life in unforgettable ways. It's been a privilege for me, for all of us, just to be here and soak this in. We've all learned, I'm sure, something about Ryan that we didn't know before. I learned in the pre-service video presentation, he liked to take his shirt off a lot, apparently. And the bicep zit thing will stick with me a while, I'll say. What I've learned more than anything is that when it comes to Ryan, we remember his life and we cherish the memories. There is one word that keeps coming back, one word that keeps intertwining each story, and with Ryan, the word is love. I was given this pin, or this button that says, Ryan Beye makes baby Jesus party. And when I come back around to the Jesus that I know, and I'm not talking about the perverted sort of things religion has done to him, but this is the man who, facing his own death, said, there is one rule I give you. Throw all the other stuff out the window. The one rule I give you is that you love one another. If we leave this place having heard these stories and shared these memories, loving one another a little more intentionally, with a little more passion and vigor and awareness, we've done our best here. Love each other. Love this family. Let us love you. This is what Ryan would have us do. There are a few sort of housekeeping things that I need to let you know about as we're getting ready to wind down today. First is, it was made mention earlier that we hope that there is a memorial account to do more of the work Ryan did, continue his legacy, and there is. There's a Ryan Beye Foundation. There's a basket in the back where gifts can be made. Those gifts can also be made at the United Consumers Credit Union. The Ryan Beye Foundation supports artists, small business developers, and people in need. There are also share pages in the back. Christian is standing where those are, directly in the back there. And the family asked that everyone fill one of those out if you didn't get to last night at visitation or before the service today. Be sure and take a moment and fill that out, even if it's just a word or two, and submit those today, or if you need to take it with you and get it back to the family, do that quickly. Christian and maybe a couple others will be working on a screen-printed guest book that will be cherished for years by those closest to Ryan. There's also a meal immediately following this time. Downstairs, everyone is invited to be a part of that meal, to continue sharing your stories around the table. And I've been asked to announce that there will be a memorial concert with the date and venue to be decided, so keep your eyes and ears open for that. Finally, at the close of today's ceremony, there will be something of a receiving line where you all can greet and minister to those family members of Ryan. So at the close of our time together, just remain seated until the family has been ushered out, and then I'll come back and dismiss you, and you can all spend some time with the family on your way out or toward the meal. So, thank you.
Come on, Ethan.
Yeah, you gotta come too.
Hello. When I was in the Underdog Conspiracy with Ryan for a long time, but more recently we were in the Fountain City Ramblers, and we would always we'd close every show with the circle be unbroken. And the correct words are, will the circle be unbroken, by and by, Lord, by and by. But we would always say, Ryan Beye, Lord, Ryan Beye. So please feel free to sing along with us and sing his name in there. We're just going to sing the chorus a couple of times, just as a way to remember him. Will the circle be unbroken, Ryan Beye, Lord, Ryan Beye. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Will the circle be unbroken, Ryan Beye, Lord, Ryan Bye. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Will the circle be unbroken,
I was asked to read more poetry recovered from Ryan Zenga. This was written May 17th, 2005. Work and achieve goals. Set the bar ever higher, but don't forget the poles that hold them in place, or the ground supporting them, or the town where such things lay, and the world that ensnares it all. Last but not least, remember the people in your life. Though we may not meet for weeks or months or years upon years, you are near and dear to me. Yes, you, and you, and you, and you as well.